6 months or a year waiting period.
Okay, yeah, that makes
sense. The silly thing about this is, of course, that Nancy's not the only one that has an insurance policy on it.
That's true.
There was. This is a little wonky, but let's keep going.
Yeah.
I know we got more ground to cover.
A little bit. So that was the coroner's reasoning, and the ruling was officially suicide. Obviously, the suicide ruling didn't set too well with Phil's widow, Tracy, and all their friends. For one thing, they didn't think he was suicidal. Also, Tracy pointed out that he'd received several threatening letters since the late 1990s, and letters that basically said, your ex is plotting to kill you for the life insurance. And so, obviously that looked to her like evidence that at least that somebody was looking to kill him.
I mean, $1 million is a lot of money.
It is. I mean, people
I'm not
have been
saying
killed
that
for a
I'm
lot less than
planning
that.
to kill you guys for your $1 million policies, but...
Yeah.
When did I sign that contract?
I'm just very good at forging.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we've got that recorded and on the record.
Dang it.
Oh, you know what? It's not turned on. Nah. Let's see. There was another weird incident that happened in June 1999. Somebody stole Philip Shue's laptop. He was actually working on his master's thesis
at the library.
At the university library. Went to go to the bathroom. When he came back, his laptop had been stolen. But the thief gave it back to him several weeks later. He left it sitting on the hood of his car in Bernie. It was parked in Bernie, and he came back, and there's his laptop. It had a threatening note on it. It said not to report it to the police because if he did that, quote, others will die, unquote. So he didn't report it to the police. Oh, yeah, and by the way, the hard drive on the computer had been wiped.
Was it his personal laptop?
I
not one that he might have used for work that would have had files on his patients and stuff like that?
No, I think this is personal. He didn't have to report it to the Air Force.
Okay.
I have a question about this note.
Yeah.
Was it a physical note or was it a note on the computer?
I do not know that.
Because if it's a note on the computer, that makes no sense. Some places have made it out as if it was a note left written in a file in the computer, but his hard drive's been wiped.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
No. My understanding is that it was a physical note, but the reason you're probably thinking that is because they only found out about this after he died.
Yeah.
Because he had written some sort of an entry on it in his journal or whatever on his computer.
Dear diary.
Yeah, exactly. So he actually wrote something on and it was in some sort of file on his computer. He wrote about this. It was stolen.
He had a log.
Yeah, he reported it to the university police. It came back with this note. He didn't report it to the police.
Okay.
Which is strange when you think about it because, I mean, this is evidence that somebody is kind of stalking him, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if the guy stole his computer, wiped the hard drive, why would somebody do that? And then somebody knew where he was, where his car was parked, and left it sitting on his hood. So that's evidence to me that some creeper is following me and knows more about me than he probably should.
Yeah, but
still, he didn't report it.
Yeah, I was going to say, but also it means that creeper probably is following you. And if you believe it's a credible threat that they are willing to hurt people that are important to you, they will literally know if you go to the police.
Maybe. I would probably find some sneaky way to get to get in contact with the police. I mean, I think it can be done if you're creative.
SMS text message.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Oh, you can text the police now.
Yeah.
Most, not all.
Yeah.
Lots of police. Stations.
Yeah, we just talked about municipalities and their different levels of technological competence.
I know the Portland police you can actually text.
Yeah, and if you're a criminal, by the way, you can also text selfies of yourself committing crime to the police. So feel free to do that.
It's perfect.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's never happened.
No.
No.
I mean, I love it when there's some story about some guy takes a picture of himself in his home, he's stealing something, and he posts it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Look at me, dog.
Did you see the one recently where a kid was they issued a warrant for his arrest or something, and he said, if this post gets 1,000 likes, I'll turn myself in.
Yeah.
And it got
way more than that.
So many. So he showed up at the police station with donuts and was like, all right, here I am.
Yep.
I said, I turned myself in. Here I am. Oh.
Well, anyway, you got to give the guy credit. He was a man of his word.
Yeah, and donuts.
Yeah, and donuts. Close. Yeah, that's. Well, back to our story, though. Tracy Shue, after this verdict, she went on a big crusade, and there was that 48 hours episode that I talked about. Was the big part of it was about her big crusade,
right?
To vindicate her husband, clear his name.
And Tracy is the widow.
And
Nancy is the ex.
Nancy is the ex.
Okay. Yeah. They're all super white bread names.
They're kind of. Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Anyway, she goes on a crusade, as I said. She sued Nancy. The ex also sued USAA, the insurance company, the life insurance company. She lost the lawsuit, but the presiding judge, as I mentioned earlier, did officially offer his opinion that Phil's death was a homicide and not a suicide.
But she still got paid out the bucks.
Nancy got the bucks, and
Tracy.
and also Tracy. Yeah,
she got more money than anybody.
She had a much bigger life insurance.
Gosh.
Pretty decent little payout.
I would hate to think of what the premiums would be for that.
I do not know. Of course,
Life
they were.
insurance policy?
It was through USAA, and they were in the military.
Oh,
so
yeah, no, that's
probably
because USAA does all of it for the military. Yeah,
Yeah.
that probably was much more affordable, which is why it was so inflated.
probably,
Okay, take it back.
Probably so cheap that they just thought, why not bump it up to 1.8 million? I mean, that's another $2 a month. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, really, why not? What else? Tracy hired a third party for another autopsy, who was it was a consultant named Cyril Wecht.
Is it Cyril?
Maybe Cyril, I don't know.
I think it's Cyril.
Yeah, he's a forensic pathologist. He's kind of one of these well-known celebrity pathologist types. He's written some books, done other high-profile cases, including the JFK assassination, Elvis Presley, John Benet Ramsey, and the list goes on and on. Probably seen him on TV at some point. And here's a fun little fact you maybe don't know. He's the guy who discovered that JFK's brain had gone missing.
He's also got a blistering tongue.
Yeah,
He really suffers no fools. Some of the things that I've read that he's written, it's like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Is the nice version of all of the things that he says about the person.
I want you to know that's the nice version of me saying things like that too.
I know.
I know you do.
Yeah.
Listeners, now you know.
Yeah.
More you know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, back to Cyril. So he appears in that 48 Hours episode, and he noted a few odd things about the death. The number one, the lidocaine in Shu's system, he said, was not at a level that would make it an effective painkiller, which he felt kind of undercut the coroner's reasoning on that point, that it would have lessened the pain enough to make the torture ineffective. Also, the lidocaine could not have come from that topical treatment that the coroner assumed it came from, because that treatment also contains prilocaine, which was not found in Shu's blood. Therefore, the lidocaine had to have come from somewhere else.
Interesting.
But Wecht found no injection point for the drug. He noted also that no needle or hypodermic was found on Shu or in the car. No bottle of lidocaine was found there. No cutting instrument capable of excising those nipples was found, or making that cut in his chest. Because there were. I mean, maybe the straight razor could have done it, but no blood was found on the straight razor.
I was going to actually say is that he did admit, when we're talking about there's no injection points, he did admit that there was actually 3 prime locations that could have been ejected and then masked by the later mutilation, which is the left nipple, the right nipple, and the strip of skin down his chest.
Oh, absolutely.
So it could have been injected there, and then the actual excision.
Yeah, and absolutely.
That entirely.
Yeah, absolutely. And since that's kind of where the cutting happened, it wouldn't be surprising at all if that's where the injections took place.
Yeah, you go to the dentist and they inject the side of your mouth that they're working on, not the other side, for a reason. It's called a local.
Yeah, exactly.
So is lidocaine a local?
Yeah, it's usually used as a local.
Okay.
Yeah, I
just
Yeah, and so I don't know what
clarifying.
happens if you inject it into your bloodstream, if you go numb all over, or what the hell happens. I've never seen it used
just
for
your
that.
bloodstream goes numb. The rest of you.
That would be funny,
Yeah.
yeah. That's funny. Your little red blood cells don't know what to do 'cause they're numb. Yeah.
I can't feel anything.
Okay, but so they didn't find anything that could have caused the injuries.
They
that
did not
Shu
find.
had.
Yeah, they found the at least one of the knives was like a Swiss Army knife, which they determined was not remotely sharp enough to have done.
Even brand new from the factory, Swiss Army knives aren't sharp enough to cut anything.
No, I've got a couple of those things. I like them just fine, but they've always been kind of dull. I've never been able to get a good edge on one of those.
Well,
things.
they tell the worst stories. That's why they're so dull.
Yeah, I know, boring. But they're so reliable and they make good watches. But here's a really key point also that Wecht made, which is that the duct tape that was on Shu's wrists and ankles did not have his fingerprints on it, which he said you would expect if he had taped himself up if he was faking his abduction, right? Mm-hmm. And no gloves were found in the car, except for that one that was unused. But no gloves were found. And so that lack of fingerprints is an important point for a lot of people who do think that Shu died as a result of foul play. It was very suspicious enough to Dr. Wecht that he thought he'd mention it. of course, as I mentioned, one glove was found, right?
Right.
Okay. Also, the local sheriff, he was interviewed on 48 Hours. He had some misgivings about the whole thing. He said it was not investigated the way it should have been. He said the state police just came in, took over the accident scene, and refused to treat it as a crime scene. They really never even considered the possibility of foul play, he said. And so some key evidence might have been lost.
According to him.
According to him, yeah. And then the Air Force started an investigation which produced what was called a psychological autopsy of Philip Shue.
These are always weirdly interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They're kind of like the Myers-Briggs tests, but even more
Takes it to another level.
But yeah, I mean, it's that sort of thing where you're like, I don't need to know about myself, and then you start reading, and you're like 5 pages in, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, this is so true. How is this so true?
This is so true. It's so scary. I'm a serial killer.
Oh no!
But this report was actually pretty comprehensive. It's long. I read it. Steve, you read it, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did you read it, Devin?
Some of it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was easy to skim through.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. Chock full of good facts. If you're researching this case, wow, there's a lot of good stuff in there. It was released in May 2005, 2 years after he died, and it drew on the testimony of a lot of people, including his doctor, his psychiatrist, family and friends, the autopsy reports, etc. And the conclusion of that psychological autopsy was suicide.
Surprised that their investigation would come up with the same thing that they said it was.
I know. But
there it is.
But still, the circumstances surrounding his death were kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
There is at least one person who had a really good motive to murder him, and who, by the way, took the fifth when she was interrogated about his death.
Yep.
And of course, there were the threatening notes, the weird incident with the laptop. And he himself had expressed some really big fears about his life. Like, for example, he told a psychiatrist that he had started altering his route that he was taking to and from work.
Daily,
exactly. They also said,
read that as you will.
Yeah.
Take that as you will.
Yeah, he also said he'd gotten a P.O. box a post office box, because he didn't want to use his mailbox at home because he was afraid somebody might booby trap it. And so he started using
a little paranoid.
Maybe a little bit, or maybe he really has something to be worried about. Yeah, so maybe, was it murder?
Well, listen, paranoia, whether it's correct or not, is still paranoia.
True, actually.
Yeah,
there's
it's
nothing
real.
negative about being paranoid if you're right.
What's that
absolutely.
thing? Just because I'm paranoid doesn't mean they're not after me.
Absolutely. And so maybe somebody was.
Yeah.
Anyway, but suspicions about it continues to be talked about to this day, and it's not just on Reddit. So
Sorry, Reddit.
Yeah, I've seen some articles in some major media outlets besides 48 Hours talking about this very one. And a lot of people are still convinced that he was murdered.
Yeah.
So was he? That's our question for today.
It's an interesting question.
Yeah, but before we answer that question, let's take a break.
The tie clip is the most versatile of accessories. Unlike its lowly cousin, the binder clip, not only can it prevent one's tie from blowing around in the wind, but it also keeps it out of the puddles of blood when kneeling over corpses. When times get tough, it can be used to close your nasal passages, blocking out the smells of the docks during a stakeout. And in moments of desperation, it works as a small and unassuming weapon during hand-to-hand combat. Why am I telling you this? Well, because you're about to undertake some real detective work. Try your hand with Dispatch, an interactive mystery story that really delivers. Each month, you'll receive a box of clues to decipher, and I've got to say, these snippets are more richly detailed than a plain old case file. It'll keep you busy for days. There's news clippings, journal entries, secret websites. It's totally immersive. And as the story develops month over month, you'll be able to take part unraveling clues and crime solving along detectives. It's perfect for lovers of mystery, crime stories, and games, which all you weirdos are, so you can bring the experience home. You already love listening to a good crime story, now become part of one. Take 50% off on your first delivery with the code SIDEWAYS, and find special deals just for our listeners at breakoutdispatch.com/sideways. That's 50% off with the code SIDEWAYS at breakoutdispatch.com/sideways.
And we're back.
Murder? Suicide? You be the judge. Murder.
Murder.
Red rum.
Yeah.
Murder.
All right. So, what are the theories that are out there? There are several. First, and everybody's favorite, it seems like, for this one is murder.
Well,
Those look kind of suspicious.
I agree.
Yeah. A little bit.
I want you guys to know that if I show up like this, please treat it like a murder. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, now we
Great.
plan to. We're going to investigate anything that happens to you, we promise.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
She's been planting clues like this for weeks.
Yeah, I
I
know.
really want to know what the hell she's got up her sleeve.
Yeah. Well, I decided that's what I do. That's why every day I go to my ATM and take out like $20, but do it like 20 times. You know? 'Cause I figured, well, if this is the day that I disappear, you know, well, he went to his ATM and took out like $400, but he did it in $20 increments, and nobody knows why. Yeah.
We know why.
Yeah. No.
You're crazy.
But damn. Okay, so murder. So somebody, this theory goes, somebody abducted Colonel Shu, tortured him, and probably intended to murder him, but he managed to free himself somehow and get away. Jumped his car, sped north on Highway 10, maybe thinking that he was being followed, which is not an outrageous thing to think in a situation
Not necessarily,
like that.
no.
Yeah. Hard to say what his intentions were, other than to get away as fast as possible. His mind was perhaps a bit clouded from pain, maybe blood loss, maybe the lidocaine. That's hard to say.
Maybe Benadryl.
Maybe the Benadryl. Apparently, he had a lot in his system. Yeah.
Does make you sleepy.
Yeah.
I mean, that would also kind of support this whole murder theory if, like, he'd gotten dosed
Somebody
with a bunch of Benadryl to
Poured
make
a bottle
him,
down his throat.
yeah, to make him more pliable and.
Or maybe just OD him and, I don't know. What's
Yeah,
the
I
think how much?
it takes a lot of Benadryl.
Yeah, well, apparently he'd taken a bunch, but so he might have been a little bit out of it. But he did manage to keep the car under control until he exited the freeway and hit those trees, at least. And so this would make it homicide in the sense that he would not have been in that situation if not for the actions of these other people who obviously did not intend him, well. But the question is who were those other people? Well, there are two main suspects out there.
The butler
And
the housekeeper.
And, yeah.
Mrs. White.
The colonel. Oh, wait. He's the colonel.
No, the lead pipe with the colonel. Okay. So our first suspect would be Philip Shu's ex-wife, Nancy Shu, a.k.a. Nancy Timpson, because she remarried to a guy named Don Timpson. And she did have a good motive to kill him, which is why so many people thought that Nancy had done it, or maybe, and still think that she did it. There was that life insurance policy, and I don't know how she felt about him. And there was a divorce, of course. I don't think it was a totally amicable one. So maybe there was another motive there, just bitterness. I don't know.
really got the feeling that they were your typical divorcees with a kid stuck in the middle. They did not seem to get along.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean that she wanted to kill him.
Oh, no.
I know lots of people who are divorced and don't want to murder anybody. But of course, the insurance policy, of course, does not prove that she killed him or hired somebody to kill him. Lots of us have motives to kill people. It doesn't mean we actually do it or make us guilty of that.
Yet.
Yeah, not so far. Yeah. But there are those letters. The only one I've actually seen is a typewritten one which says, and here I'm paraphrasing, I overheard your ex-wife Nancy and her husband Don talking, and they were saying that they wanted you dead for your insurance money. FYI, be careful. Signed, Upper End.
That letter is really poorly written. True typewriter or some kind of word processor that did not have spell check, because there was some pretty egregious errors in there.
Yeah, no, it was probably typewritten because let's not forget, you worked for the military. You probably in 2003 you probably wouldn't have found too many typewriters in civilian life, but I bet the military still had them.
I was gonna say like a library.
Yeah.
Because he was at a library when that computer was returned to him, right? A campus library.
Well, that when it was taken from him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I'm not saying that he typed that either. I mean, it's just somebody sent him this letter that was typewritten.
Right. I just would think.
And by the way, his I think his ex or her husband were actually in the military, but stationed in Florida.
Yeah, because they lived in Florida.
Yeah, and so right about the time that he received this letter, I think it made him think about this whole insurance thing. So he asked Nancy to cancel the insurance policy. She wouldn't. He went to the insurance company, USAA, and asked them to cancel it, and they refused. He even presented the notes and everything. Said, "Hey, I've been getting these nasty letters and stuff that are kind of scaring me, and I don't want her having a motive to kill me." And they just said, dude, there's nothing we can do.
Sucks to be you, but that's not our problem.
They just said, you got these notes, but so what? They don't prove a thing. She owns the policies. It's up to her to keep them or get rid of them. And so that was that. As far as the letters, I don't know if any of the envelopes that came in were kept or tossed out. I'd never seen the evidence that they were kept.
Nor have I.
Yeah. And pretty much all of them were of a similar nature. I think there were 4 of them in all.
But he kept the letters.
He kept the letters.
Right.
Yeah,
that's proof.
And who knows? Maybe he kept
Or he kept at least 4 of the letters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. There might have
Possibly
been
could
more.
have gotten more that we don't know about.
Yeah, it's true. I only know about the 4.
I would maybe toss the first one.
That's entirely possible. You would, yeah.
Be like, okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Sure, dude. And then you get another one and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Then you get like 4 more and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Except it was over the course of years that they arrived.
But I would still, the second one would maybe think, okay, more, yeah.
Yeah, I would probably start a file and keep them there. Yeah. So she continued to try to get the policy canceled, but he was never successful in that. But it was kind of it was a micro crusade or something. I mean, it wasn't like it was an obsession exactly, but he was sort of working on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Nancy was interrogated about Philip's death, she pleaded the fifth. If you watch that 48 Hours episode, you'll see her on video doing it. 2 of the questions were, quote, were you responsible for Philip Shue's death? Unquote. She took the fifth. Next question, quote, did you discuss with your husband Don Timpson murdering Philip Shue for insurance money? Unquote. She took the fifth. According to 48 Hours, she took the fifth 20 times.
We have seen more than one occasion where somebody has done that because their lawyer said, if you say anything, they're going to have a field day and they're going to try and incriminate you. Yeah. So don't give them a single thing.
Oh, yeah.
One of our mods talks about this in something related where we talk a lot about how suspicious it is that so-and-so got a lawyer, right? In a case, if you weren't guilty, you wouldn't get a lawyer. But one of the Facebook mods talks about this a lot, where they're like, if anybody within like a 20-mile radius of me gets murdered, and I even have a passing knowledge of this human, I'm probably gonna just contact my lawyer and be like, hey, heads up, this is how I knew this human, just in case.
Yeah.
Technically lawyering up a lot.
You're covering your bases.
Yeah, I think.
Lawyering up.
CYA.
Yeah. But also, I do think it's suspicious.
Oh yeah, it is. It does look
to plead the
suspicious,
fifth instead of saying no.
Well, that's the thing. Is if she wasn't involved, why not just answer honestly? Say, I don't know anything about this.
But I also don't know what her lawyer was thinking.
And of course, truthfully, I mean, some of those questions, like, did you discuss with your husband murdering him for insurance money? I mean, they might have discussed that. Probably not seriously. I mean, at some point...
Yeah, you get drunk one night and talk about it?
I can see you sitting around and saying, oh, God, short on money and Phil's got this $1 million insurance. We should kill him,
Well, let's be honest, right? But, we have on recording me saying, haha, I'm going to murder you guys for your